All right, we get it rolling on the Krug Show. Hope everybody's having a good night. Larry Kruger on the Krug Show. Kevin alongside from Cal Poly. Schedule is out. I'm a little bit late reacting because I had Little League playoffs tonight. We did lose. So if I'm on edge, that's it. We lost in the Little League playoffs. But we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And they do run out, so you got to get there early. Go say hi to Damon and Mary, get some brisket, and tell them that Larry Kruger sent you. Pig and a Pickle, the title sponsor of the Krug Show. The schedule's out, and I only glanced at it in the dugout on my phone one time. So
here it is.
I haven't digested it start to finish. We've billed this as the instant reaction to the schedule release, and we're going to give you a legitimate instant reaction because I haven't really studied it all that much. So we'll just go right down the list. So, Kev, before we get into it, what was your general takeaway from the Niners schedule that was released tonight officially at 5:00? It was leaked partially earlier in the day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how this really works. I'm not sure if the NFL wants it to get leaked, but it's like since Monday, it's like we're hearing little bits and pieces, and now we finally got the whole thing. So it's not like a grand surprise, but now we have the full picture. The good news is the Niners play 6 primetime games, which is the most in the NFL, tied with the Jets and the Cowboys. So that's exciting. I love primetime games. It's just my favorite. So that was really exciting. The bad news is that they play a lot of teams coming off of a bye. I think I saw Guy Haberman tweet out they're playing 4 teams off of a bye, which is the most in the NFL. And the teams that they're playing off the bye are like the Bills, the Chiefs. I got to find the full list, but Bills, Chiefs, I think Cowboys.
Arizona. Yeah. Bills, Chiefs, and Cowboys. Yeah, so they're playing a lot of the good teams when the good teams will have a rest advantage against them. Chiefs, Bills, and Cowboys all off the bye, as well as one against Seattle and one against Arizona off their bye. So they're going to be playing a lot of rested teams coming off their bye week, which is a major disadvantage. But they do get, week 1 against the Jets. The Jets are rebuilding their offensive line. That's, I think, advantage 49ers. They did avoid playing Miami and Tampa in the first couple weeks of September. That could be brutal. They get both those late in the calendar. They do have some cold weather games though, huh?
I mean, Patriots in September is not bad, but they do have
the
Bears.
That game at home?
No, you have that's at home. Yeah. So what am I saying?
Yeah, game's at home.
Bills, December 1st. At Bills, December 1st. That's going to be a cold game.
And Green Bay. When do they play Green Bay?
November 24th. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they won't get January Green Bay weather, but they'll get cold weather there, and then they could get
those
snow
are back-to-back games. Yeah, those are back-to-back games. One other thing I noticed is that they don't play more than one, or they don't play more than 2 games in a row at home or away. So they don't have like a long stretch where they're on the road to worry about. So that's one other thing to note. And then
what week's the bye? Week 9?
Week 9, which is that's not bad. I rather have it on the back half than the front half.
Yeah, I mean, but right in the middle of the year is a perfect time.
Yeah.
The
other thing that Schefter put out is that they're traveling the 5th most miles.
That's just being in California.
Yeah.
I mean, you live out, when you're based in Seattle, I'm sure leads the universe in miles too.
They're 3rd. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of an annual thing. But yeah, I mean, getting the Chiefs and Cowboys, and would you say the 3rd and Buffalo all off the bye, man. I mean, what's Andy Reid's record off the bye, by the way? It's unbelievable.
I remember it from his against the spread on a bye week is pretty good.
Yeah. So that's a major advantage for Kansas City to get the Niners coming off their bye week. Now, you never know about injuries, and we will go through the whole schedule and, win, loss, like everybody else. But it does feel kind of like an exercise in futility because the NFL is all about, who's playing this week and who's healthy this week and who's up this week. And, so that's, to sit there in the NFL Network and ESPN. I mean, they'll be doing that the rest of the week. All right, week 14, Green Bay against Minnesota. Who do you like? It's like, well, I mean, who knows? I mean, I like Green Bay, but it's like you never know who's going to be healthy. You never know who's going to be playing. So it does become kind of a futile exercise, but it passes the time in May before football season.
Yeah.
There's no London game though, huh? The Niners are not going to London.
Yeah, they're not going to London, which was a whole interesting thing because teams that go to London can elect if they want a bye week the next week. That's like a rule. So that's kind of an interesting thing. I'm not sure how that plays out. But yeah, just going back to the bye week thing, there's the majority of the league, like 80% of the league either has 0 or 1 team that they're playing off of a bye. The Niners have 4. There's only one other team that has 3. So they got kind of screwed with that, especially with the talent that they're facing in the Chiefs and the Cowboys and the Bills. And then there's a fourth one that I'm not sure yet, but that's pretty rough. That's going to be pretty rough. The good news is that the Chiefs won. Yeah.
Do the Niners play on Thanksgiving or Christmas?
No, they play on No, they don't play on Thanksgiving or Christmas. They do play on Christmas Eve and New Year's Day.
Christmas Eve and New Year's Day. Christmas Eve at home or on the road?
Christmas Eve on the road. Oh no.
Against who?
No. I'm thinking November 24th. Never mind. They don't play. They don't play on Christmas or Christmas Eve. I saw November 24th and I thought December.
I gotcha.
They do play.
But they do play on New Year's Day. Who against who?
At Buffalo.
At Buffalo, and that's a night game though.
Yeah,
so it's New Year's Day night.
Yeah. Should we just run through the schedule? Let's just run.
Yeah, let's do it. Right here. Let's do it. Do you want to go wins and losses and see what the record is?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's
so I'll write.
We can ask the chat too. We can see what people in the chat think.
Okay, so
yeah, you want to write this down?
Yeah, I'm going to go win-loss all the way down. Okay, here we go. Week number 1. Who do you got?
Well, to start it off, 3 preseason games that don't matter. They're playing the Titans in Tennessee, home against the Saints, and then they're going to Las Vegas to play the Raiders. And then week 1,
Tennessee game or the Saints game, they're going to practice in Irvine before they play the Saints.
Right.
Maybe we'll make I'll make the road trip to Irvine.
Oh, you could. That would be interesting. Maybe I'll come with you. Yeah. Maybe we'll come.
If you're back from Europe, I don't know. Aren't you going on a European vacation?
Yes, I am. All right. So starting with the first game, you got the Jets primetime on Monday Night Football, September 9th, 5:15 kickoff.
That's a definite win.
Facing Robert Saleh, Javon Kinlaw, Solomon Thomas, Isaiah Oliver, I think, is on the Jets now. So a lot of familiar faces over there.
This is Aaron Rodgers making his first start since tearing out the Achilles. And this is the Jets flying across country in week 1. The Jets have 2 or 3 new offensive linemen. They've made some changes on their offensive line. So getting them early, and Rodgers before he gets into any kind of a rhythm. I like it. I'll take my chances there. I think that's a W. That's an absolute win.
I'll take that that's definitely a win for me. I mean, you're at home against the Jets, right? So
home against the Jets, and
Aaron Rodgers hasn't played a down of football in a year. He played one drive. He's played one drive in the last 2 seasons,
right?
Or not the last 2 seasons, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. So this will be his first action since week 1 of last year, and obviously he'll play some. They'll play him somehow in the preseason for a couple series here and there, but the Niners have had good luck against Rodgers, and I think I like that. Primetime night game at Levi's against the Jets with all their restructured, reworked offensive line. I'll take the Niners. Week 2, who do you got?
I really like, just going back to the Jets for a sec. I really like the matchup because week 1's all about it's all about what you were talking about in the offseason. Because this matchup in week 8 could be oh, the Jets suck. Who cares about Niners versus Jets? The line set at -14. I bet the line's going to be I think it is -5. So it's going to be
Or I thought it was 6.5. Okay, go
Maybe
ahead.
it's moved. I think it opened at 5.5 or 5. But yeah, I just like the Aaron Rodgers aspect, the Javon Kinlaw aspect. There was a Sauce Gardner Charvarius Ward beef going on after the Super Bowl. So
Right.
there's a lot of different storylines there. So I really like that first matchup. The second week, you're going back to Minnesota and playing the Vikings at 10 a.m. on CBS, September 15th. Second year in a row.
Sam Darnold. That's a W. That's a W. That's a W.
Or JJ McCarthy, right?
Yeah, that's a win. I mean, I know it's a tough place to play, but I still think that's a win.
Yeah,
I'll take the W there. I will say this though: Minnesota's got a really good defense, and even though they lost Danielle Hunter, they added. Didn't they add a good defensive end? Who was the defensive end they added? Look that up. See if you see. Go look at Minnesota's D line. I know they let Danielle Hunter go, but they added some good players on that. Yeah, Greenard, exactly. They got Greenard from Houston, who's younger. So yeah, but that's a win.
I like him a lot too. You frozen? There you are. You froze for a second. I didn't hear you.
Oh, what do you think? I like the Niners. I mean, I don't care if it's JJ McCarthy or Sam Darnold. I like the Niners to beat Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, you summed it up there. It's hard to play there, and we saw that last year when the Niners had a tough loss. I think that was that Monday Night Football? I think that was Monday Night Football against the Vikings. Yeah, it was, because it was Joe Buck calling it. Yeah, without Kirk Cousins, because Kirk Cousins that game last year, he was torn. He had one of the best games of his career. Yeah, that was an amazing game for him. He was 35 of 40 or something with a crazy awesome passer rating.
0 blitz at the end of the first half. The Niners
infamous
touchdown to
Steve
Jordan
Wilkes.
Addison.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Steve Wilkes fucked that up, and Shanahan called him out later for it. But the Niners played terrible in that game. They were always just a step behind. Cousins was converted, I think, 90% of his third downs in that game. I mean, Cousins totally dominated that game. It's like Cousins when he plays the Niners sometimes. I don't know if it's because he loves Kyle Shanahan, but he just raises his level of play, and he was as good as any quarterback in pro football that night. But I like.
I know that it's a funny thing too, because Kyle Shanahan's probably sitting there this is why I wanted this guy.
Because I had this guy.
Yeah, that was my guy.
Had this guy. There are people that still think the Niners are going to trade for. I saw a thing the other day. Michael Penix is going to win the job in Atlanta, and the Falcons are going to trade Kirk Cousins to the Niners. It's like, dude, the Niners have a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins right now.
Yeah, anyway, I think I saw that. Someone put something out during the season this season that was Kirk Cousins could be the 49ers starting quarterback in 2025 or something like that, or 2024.
Yeah, why? Yeah, and why would you have $1 million quarterback for one more year, but you're going to pass that up to go get a quarterback who makes a ton of money?
Coming off an injury, right?
Coming off an injury, who's old. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, you're going to get rid of your 23-year-old cheap quarterback for a 35-year-old old quarterback who's really, really expensive. Yeah, I didn't see that. All right, week 3. Who's week 3?
Week 3, the Niners are going to LA. So back-to-back games on the road. They're going to play the Rams at 1:25 p.m. on Fox, September 22nd. First time facing off with the Rams during the season. You get to go play against McVay in LA.
That's a loss.
What do you think?
I'm putting that down as a loss. I mean, the Niners typically play well in LA. They'll have a packed house of Niner fans. If they lose to the Rams, it's probably more likely to be at home. But you know what? Since I have them starting 2-0, I'll mix in a loss here. I think the Rams game could be a loss.
Okay. I'm going to go win.
You're going to go win. Okay.
I'm going to go win. I don't know why. I mean, again, all this is just like completely you're just kind of throwing shit at the wall because you don't really know.
Well, you can. Yeah, I mean, who knows? But I mean, as far as the rhythm of it, you don't win every game. Every game's it's really hard to win in the NFL. I'm giving them a win in week 1. I'm giving them a win on the road in week 2, and now they're on the road again against the Rams. I'm going to say Rams get them. All right, week 4. Who's week 4?
Week 4, the 49ers face the Patriots at home, September 29th, 1:05 p.m. on Fox.
That's a win.
Yeah, and that's a win. But it's a fun matchup. I love playing the Patriots. I think the last time they played the Patriots was Jimmy G 2022, maybe. Yeah. I remember Kendrick Bourne was on the team. He made a big catch that game. But that was a year the Niners were not
so I have the Niners 3-1 out of the chute. You got them at 4-0 in September.
Yeah, I think they could edge off the Rams.
All right, week 5. Who do you got? Who they got week 5?
Week 5, Cardinals. They're playing the Cardinals at home, October 6th, 1:05 p.m. on Fox. Division game.
That's always a trap game, but I'm going to say a W. The Niners will get the win there. I think they're going to sweep Arizona.
Yeah, I'll put a W there too.
All right, okay. So now we're at week 6. What's week 6?
Week 6. The Niners play the Seahawks on October 12th, 5:15 p.m. Prime Video, which means it's a Thursday night football game.
It's in Seattle.
In Seattle.
Niners have been good in Seattle recently. I'm going to say that's a W.
I think the Seahawks have just been bad. I mean, I don't really know what they're going to do. They're
beat them last year on Thanksgiving. Remember, we watched it in the car on the drive home.
Yeah, and then they almost choked it too. Remember, they almost choked that game.
They had a great first half, and then they gagged it in the second half.
We listened to that on the radio.
Right. We came back and went live afterwards. We'd only seen the incredible first half.
I'll give them a win on this. I know I'm 6-0, but
6-0.
It's because I think they're going to go 6-1 here. Because week 7, they play the Chiefs at home, October 20th, 1:25 p.m. on Fox. Super Bowl rematch. Who do you got winning this game?
Kansas City. I mean, Kansas City owns the Niners. I'm not picking the Niners to beat Kansas City until they beat Kansas City. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to think the Niners could pull the upset, but I'm gonna go Kansas City.
Fair enough. Same here. Then they go to week
7.
Week 8.
This is week 8. Now, who do they get week 8?
They face the Cowboys, October 27th, 5:20 p.m. NBC Sunday Night Football at home.
The same way the Niners lose to the Chiefs, they beat Dallas. So I'm going to say a W there against Dallas.
Yeah, I love the Niners prime time against Dallas. That's it's always a good game for the Niners.
Yeah. So week 9 is the bye, right? Week 10
Week 9 is the bye. Week 10, you get the luxury of going to Tampa Bay on November 10th at 10 a.m. on Fox. Playing the Buccaneers.
That's a win.
Yeah, it's a win.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a win. Pretty solid matchup there. I feel like they'd open up as like a 7-point favorite. Win that game pretty easily. Week 11.
Yeah,
week 11. Facing the Seahawks at home on November 17th at 1:05 p.m. on Fox. Home game against the Seahawks.
That's a win.
I'll give them a loss just because there's always a fluky. There's always going to be a fluky loss.
Okay.
You know,
I think the Niners really do fire for Seattle. But anyway, I got a win. You got a loss. That's week 11. Now we're in week 12.
Yeah, this is where the stretch gets pretty interesting. I feel like this last half of the season is going to be really interesting because you got Packers on the road, November 24th at 1:25 p.m. So cold weather game most likely, and you're facing Jordan Love and the Packers, who just played in the playoffs, and they're a good upcoming team.
Yeah. I'm gonna say win.
Okay.
I'm gonna say win. Where are you on that one?
I'm not sure if I want to call this game a loss or the next game a loss because they're playing the Bills next. But yeah, I'm going to call this one a win, but I'm going to call the next game a loss.
So we're in week 12. Now we're in week 13.
Week 13,
at
back
Buffalo.
to back. Yeah, at Buffalo, back-to-back road game in the cold weather. It's a nighttime game because it's 5:20 p.m., which is 8:20 p.m. Eastern, December 1st.
That's a loss. I get that.
That might be a loss. I could totally see this game being one of those games where it's like, oh, Josh Allen just ran all over you and broke contain and you couldn't stop him.
Yeah.
One of those games.
Yeah. That's a loss. Then week 14, or that's week 13. Week 14 is what?
Week 14 is an interesting game because you're going against the Bears at home, December 8th, 1:25 p.m. We don't know how good Caleb Williams and the Bears are going to be, but if Caleb Williams anything like what the people are talking about, maybe the Bears will be pretty good.
I'm going to put that down as a loss. Now, I don't believe in Caleb Williams at all, but I'm not even convinced Caleb Williams will be starting that game. It's late in the year. Who knows? Anything could happen. He's a rookie quarterback, but the Bears have a killer defense on all three levels. So I'm going to say the Bears defense catches the Niners sleeping, and they get into, they go into a little funk here. They lose to Buffalo, and then they turn around and lose again to Chicago in a game. This is where people start to panic. Week 14.
Did you this is off topic, but did you happen to catch the tweet today I think it was it must have been a Bears beat reporter that tweeted out a video of Caleb at practice throwing? Do you see that video?
No. Why?
He was like he tweeted it out, and it was like Caleb throwing like slant routes on air in shorts to no defender, just like warm-ups. And the tweet read like something about this just is like special, or it was like something like
yeah, right.
Something like this guy. Like, I can't believe this guy's only a rookie, and people are like, "You're joking, right? Like, what are you talking about? Like, he's in shorts throwing on air." It's just the
when
phrase
he totally sucks. You're gonna that tweet's gonna look like total S.
I know. It's just like the people over there. They have drinking the Kool-Aid.
Oh,
they're
who
all.
Who was it? Was it somebody said the other day? Was it a Bear? I thought it was a Bear player or a Bear receiver that said that they were talking about Caleb, and he's like, he ain't as good as Fields. Wasn't it? Seriously,
I did not see that.
Who are the Bears receivers?
Who's Mike Williams, or not Mike Williams?
No,
saying
not Mike Williams. It's one of their existing receivers. It's one of the receivers they had last year.
Darnell Mooney.
Not Darnell Mooney. The other guy.
What's his face? The good receiver.
Yeah. Who they got? Who they traded for?
Someone in the chat has to help me. I'm completely blanking on him.
Just Moore.
It's
DJ Moore. DJ Moore said that Justin Fields is better. He said that. The Bears are a tire fire, but I'll say this: somehow their defense is coming on, and it's good on all three levels. So I like the Bears to pull the upset. All right, who's week 15?
Sorry.
And what do you like? What do you take? You're taking a W there? Or?
I'll take a W there. I think the Niners will win that game. I don't really believe in Caleb Williams, not in the sense that he's going to be a complete bust, but I just don't think he's as generational as people think.
Yeah.
But I do like the Bears. They're a good up and coming team. They've had some high picks, so they got some young talent.
No question.
They got Caleb Williams and they had another pick, right?
They got Rome Odunze.
Yeah. Rome Odunze.
They got Rome Odunze.
And they have Keenan Allen. So
and nice. Cole Kmet and Roshan Johnson, and they got some guys. And a killer D. I mean, they got a good defense. I think their defense is one of the best in the conference, to be honest. Okay, so week 15, who's next?
Week 15, the Niners play the Rams again at home, December 12th. This time it's 5:15 on Prime Video. So it's going to be a cold game. Or not a cold game. It's going to be a Thursday night game. So short rest against the Rams.
Short rest against the Rams.
At home, though.
I have them losing to the Rams in LA. Do they get swept by the Rams? Let's see.
I'm going to chalk this one up.
I'm going to say that's a loss. You're going to say loss?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm going to say that's a loss too.
There's something about the Thursday night games where it's like it's a little bit more random. It's not necessarily like the better team wins. It's almost like
this will be a panic-stricken moment because this will mean the Niners will have lost 3 in a row. The way I have it, because I have them losing to Buffalo, losing to the Bears, and losing to the Rams. So people will be losing their mind. People will be losing their mind.
I don't think anyone who predicted the schedule for the Niners last season had them losing 3 in a row to the Browns, the Vikings, and who else? Or the Bengals.
Yeah.
There's no way.
So that's week 15. What's week 16?
Week 16, you get in the luxury of going to Miami, playing the Dolphins, December 22nd, 1:25 p.m. So that's going to be an interesting.
I'm going to say that's a win.
I'll give them a win there too.
They get off the schneid. And then week 17 is who?
Week 17 is another great game. It's a Sunday, or it's December 30th at 5:15 p.m. It's on ESPN and ABC. So primetime versus the Lions. What is December 30th? Is that a Saturday or something? Let me see.
December 30th against the Lions. At home? At home?
It's a Monday game.
Or at Detroit?
At home.
At home. Last game of the year at home against Detroit.
What's our records right now? What do you have?
I have them at 11-5.
What do I have?
You have them at 1, 2, 3, 4. You have them 12-4. So are they going to go 13-4, or are they going to go 12-5? Man, that's a tough one because Detroit could be really, really good at this point. I'm going to put that down as a loss. I think so. I have the Niners losing in week 3 at the Rams, and then week 7 against Kansas City, and then week 13 at Buffalo, and then week 14 at home against Chicago, and then week 15 at home against the Rams. So and then I think they'll get off the canvas and beat Miami, but then I have them losing to Detroit. So I have the Niners losing 3 of their final 4 games.
No, they play week 18.
Okay. Okay. Well, first of all, what are you doing week 17?
I think I'm going to go loss. I think they're going to go 13-14 this year, or 13-4 this year.
And week 18 is what?
Is Cardinals. Cardinals on the road. No time and date set yet.
I have that as a win.
Same.
What do you have?
Win. So my 4 losses would be Chiefs.
Well,
Bill,
in
Chiefs,
order, you're saying Chiefs,
Seahawks,
Seahawks,
Bills, Lions,
Rams, Lions.
Yeah, you have the Rams game.
You do too.
Oh, the second Rams game. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I have 5 losses. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got what? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 12-6. Or is that not right? No, 11-6, right? It's 17 games over 18 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have 11-6, 11-6, and you have 12-5. What's the over under? I wonder on the Niners.
That's a good question. I can look at it. I think it's 13.5 or something, right?
No, really? How could that be?
Wins? Why would it be 10.5 wins? It's 11.5.
Yeah, I was going to say 13. That would have been really high. So it's 11.5. So we're right on it.
So
you have them going over. I have them going under. We're right on the number.
Hey, look at that. Right. We're not biased.
Well, I mean, who knows if it'll play out this way? But I mean, there's always a game that they should win that they're going to lose. And I have that game being the home game late in the year against the Bears. We'll see how it all shakes out. But you know what's interesting about the way I have it broken down is that if it does go this way, the Niners will both be in the playoffs, but with all kinds of doubters, right? Instead of being in last year's scenario where they were at home all the time, they probably will have to venture out on the road, right? And there will be people losing their mind. I mean, if the 49ers really do lose 4 of their final 6 games, they go 2-4 in their final 6. There'll be people that will be doubting them majorly going into the playoffs. That's not the same team and this and that, and they can't do it. And maybe that's the way they need to do it this time. Maybe if they, they've done it at home and they were not impressive, and they still found their way to the Super Bowl. Now they, if they may get one home playoff game, but maybe that second playoff game's on the road. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see what the rest of the teams in the conference do. 11-6, maybe they'll have to venture on the road. If they do win 12, they probably will. They may even still have home field advantage all the way through. But it might be better for them, to have the doubters, because people, if they lose to Buffalo, Chicago, the Rams, and Lions all down the stretch, there'll be all kinds of people that will be doubting them come playoff time.
Yeah. I mean, last year we saw it with the 3 losses, but then we saw it again when they lost to the Ravens on Christmas Day. Once it was like people's dreams were shattered on Christmas night because they lost to that Ravens game, and because it was they played a real competitor, and that was one of the things that I remember during the season. People were like, they haven't beaten anyone that's been da 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 da, and like the Ravens game was kind of a prove it game, and they choked, and they looked pretty bad that game. So yeah,
things just really went against them.
If they drop 3 of 4 in the last 5 games, that's not going to be a good
Let me
look.
ask you a question. I heard Steve Young today. He was on 95.7 The Game, I guess yesterday. And he said, man, the Niners really had, from Christmas on, the Ravens kind of sent them into a spin. Kyle Van Noy said, not only did we beat the Niners, we figured out the secret to beating the Niners. And all that I could glean from that was that they took advantage of some of those condensed formations, and they blitzed corners off the edge. And because of the condensed formations, their corners had further to travel. Then they dropped an extra defender into the middle of the field, and everybody just kind of read the quarterback's eyes and tried to anticipate where Purdy was going to throw it. From that game on, the Niners didn't really look like the Niners. And that was Steve's point that he made on the radio to Willard and Dibbs. And I kind of agree with him. It's like they won games, obviously, they got to the Super Bowl, but they didn't really look very good after the Raven game. Do you think that Van Noy had a point there, that maybe the Ravens did, provide at least a template of how to bother the 49ers? Because Brock Purdy seemed like, kind of tentative for the vast majority of the rest of the season. He played really well in the second half against Detroit and Green Bay, but and he played, I thought, pretty solid football in the Super Bowl under tons of pressure. But I don't know. It's like there's no question that it seemed like the Ravens maybe did provide a template for how to beat the Niners to some degree. What do you think of what Van Noy said? Because he was like really boisterous that not only had the Ravens gotten a win, but they had kind of proven, they'd put on film, the way to derail and slow down the Niners, and maybe Brock Purdy specifically.
I think it could be true to a point. I don't think it's true to the extent that Kyle Van Noy said it, but he is kind of right. If you're looking at the schedule, the early in the year is when they started beating up on teams that we thought was going to be a close game. Like the Steelers game start off the year, even though the Steelers end up being way worse than we expected that game to be close. The Niners blew them out. Then they went to they played the Cowboys at home on Sunday Night Football. We thought that was going to be a close game. The Niners blew them out. They went to Philadelphia. We thought that was going to be a close game. They blew them out. And then once the Ravens came to town on Christmas night and they beat there's a fly in my face right now. And the Ravens beat the Niners at home. They didn't really have a blowout win from a team that we expected them to be close with the rest of the season, right? Because then they played the Packers, close game but won. The Lions barely won that game. So it may be true. In terms of the Ravens game, I think that was, I remember talking about this. That was a very interesting game. There was a lot of turnovers.
I mean, the Ravens are good in the middle. Purdy was good in the middle of the field. The Ravens' middle of the field defenders were pretty damn good. I mean, Harrison.
Well, they had first off, the Niners' offensive line that game got beat up pretty bad, right? They were playing short staffed, I guess you could say. Like they weren't playing with their best offensive linemen. I think they were in the beginning of the game, but the Ravens were able to get pressure, and they have really tough, man-to-man corners that they could put on the receivers and, get pressure and force deflections and get interceptions. I don't remember the exact statistic, but then the Ravens didn't really have to drive very far for some of their drives because they got the ball at like the 20-yard line.
Right.
And so those were just key interceptions that I thought really changed the game in that particular game. But it may be true because, we saw in the Seahawks, the Kansas City just locked down man-to-man press and, sent blitzes, and it ruined the rhythm. So.
Wait, against who?
The Niners in the Super Bowl. Kansas City.
Oh, okay. I thought okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Van Noy, the one thing that was pretty clear is that the Ravens have great, Kyle Hamilton, Geno Stone, Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith. I mean, they had great talent in the middle of the field. And then, it's interesting if you blitz Brock Purdy, off the edges, like they did, and you can get home and you drop in that extra guy in the middle of the field, and he likes to throw it in the middle of the field, suddenly he's throwing it into a crowd. There also were some freak plays in that game. There was one play where a defender came on a blitz, and then Purdy threw the ball, and he batted the ball up in the air, and then it fell in the arms of, I think, Marlon Humphrey, wasn't it? Who got a pick. So, I mean, that was freakish. I mean, you could do that a million times, and it wouldn't happen that way again. But I mean,
there was one really bad pick in the beginning of the game. There was one pick.
It was Hamilton. You didn't see Hamilton. They were driving down. He had Hamilton just lurking there in the middle of the field. He led the receiver too much in the middle, and Hamilton stepped in front of it and picked it off. Now, Hamilton's a great fucking player, and he made a great freaking play there for sure. But Purdy didn't, admitted afterwards that he had no account of Hamilton. And Hamilton was just baiting him, hiding out, and he just read the quarterback's eyes and broke on the ball. So I thought McDonald, the young coordinator for the Ravens, had a great game plan. I mean, he really did. And they had great personnel to match up in the middle of the field. Baltimore is not the kind of team that you want to have to throw the ball in the middle of the field against, because they had 4 or 5 really elite middle of the field defenders. So
yeah, the only reason I'm like thinking back, like the only reason I wasn't 100% on board with Kyle Van Noy's take, like I think his assessment of like a way to stop the Niners is true, but specifically talking about that game, like the Niners drove pretty well most of the time against the Ravens. Like they had a lot of yards in that game. It was just the turnovers that just killed them, because they were driving, and then turnover. And then it's like all that was for nothing. And they lost the time of possession. The Ravens got good field possession. So it was one of those games where it's like the turnover differential really matters. In that game, the turnover differential was like 4-1 or something like that, or 5-1. It was high. So it's hard not to include that in the picture.
Yeah. I mean, come on. In the NFL, when you're -3 or worse on the turnover margin, you're not winning. You're not winning. Yeah. There's only 10 possessions in an NFL game generally. And there might be 12, there might be 9, but it's right around 10. If you give away 3 on turnovers, it's hard to win.
I put a tweet out after that game, and it blew up, and I got all these hate messages from Baltimore people being like, "You're an idiot," like just like DMing me saying I'm an idiot, because all I said was, like, coming from a Niners perspective to Niners fans, like, hey, don't like beat yourself up over the loss. It wasn't that the Niners couldn't drive or they got absolutely shut down offensively. It was, you had this massive turnover differential, and it's just hard to win a game when you have a massive turnover differential. And a lot of that was up to luck, and just, not luck, but just like kind of fluky plays. I think I said the word fluky and people lost their minds, but that's kind of what happened. It was just kind of a fluky play here and there.
Niners again had more yardage in that game. Did they have more total yards?
They had significantly more yardage. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Ravens are an interesting team. I mean, I think you saw in the playoffs when Kansas City played them in Baltimore that Kansas City just said, hey, you know what? We're not going to take any chances, and we're just going to, we're going to get into third and manageable, and we're going to put the ball in Mahomes' hands, and we're going to let him run it a bunch of times, and, we're going to keep the ball out of the air, and we're going to take very few chances, and we're going to lean on our defense, and and then you watch Kansas City in that game. What did they do when they got in the red zone? They ran almost exclusively in the A gaps behind Creed Humphrey and Allegretti, who was in for Joe Thuney, who was out. Thuney, I guess, or Thuney, whatever. And they just ran it. They just ran it on them. And then Baltimore turned it over. They got a little anxious. They fell behind. And Lamar is a bully. He's a front-running bully. The Ravens are a bully football team. If they get up on you, they pound you. If they get up on you, it gets worse. They all kinds of blitzers and all kinds of pressure on the quarterback. And they love to play downhill and then run and run and run some more. But if you take away their run game situationally, get a lead on them, force them to play from behind, force them to not really have the play action at their disposal, and suddenly it's like, hey, Lamar, drop back to pass and make it happen from the pocket. He can't do it. He can't do it.
If you make
the guy's got
Lamar
he's got 2 playoff wins. He's got like 5 playoff losses. All the losses, they've fallen behind. He's been forced to pass. They have no run game, and they lose the game.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's
for as great as Lamar is, I mean, you're right. It's just he is kind of a front runner in that sense, where it's like if you make him one-dimensional, it's not like when people say make him one-dimensional and he sucks. It's like you make him one-dimensional and he's still really good, but he's not what Lamar is when he's up and he can like escape the pot. Like they're up 2 scores. You know, if they score a third time, the game's sealed. And it's like, oh, you miscontain. He runs for 50 yards. They're winding the clock down. It's like that's where he's absolutely just dangerous as a quarterback, is when he can do both things. But when he's down playing from a deficit and he has to pass, you know, he's not an elite passer yet.
He looks beatable at that point. I mean, I bet Kansas City that day. You bet Baltimore, actually, huh? You like Baltimore in that game, I think.
Oh, in the playoff game, yeah.
Yeah. So I know
more
Baltimore. Football. I know more football than you. I'm better than you. I'm a better person than you because but I mean I no, I'm just joking, of course. But I mean, Mahomes. If Mahomes plays Lamar 10 times, I'm taking Mahomes all 10 times. Mahomes is just Mahomes in the playoffs. He's amazing.
You got to remember at that time, Ravens were looking really nice.
Oh yeah,
and the Chiefs
Ravens they had the home
Chiefs
field.
Still had the Chiefs still had the moniker of like they played like they've played some pretty bad games. Like during the Chiefs were not that hot during the season.
No, in fact, they looked really bad. In fact, you know, that was the one reason that I think there was a lot of hope in San Francisco that the Niners could win the whole thing, was that I think when you watch Kansas City this year, you could tell it wasn't a vintage Kansas City team. It was a transition year for them, but they still found a way to get it done.
Just to wrap up on the whole schedule talk, back to the Van Noy point. I think it's interesting to bring up the Van Noy point from the offensive perspective, but in reality, what took the cake in terms of the coverage of the end of the season was the run defense. So that's what was really overshadowing everything else, you know, was just like, what is going on with the 49ers defense, because they couldn't stop anyone. It felt like in those 2 playoff games, and Baltimore for that matter. So that's going to be something we're going to watch in the beginning of the season, in the preseason. You can't tell me the preseason doesn't matter, because we told you during the preseason what the hell is going on with the 49ers run defense, and TDP looks like shit. That's what I remember saying during preseason last year, and he didn't make the team. So preseason definitely matters. I'm excited for the 6 primetime games the Niners have. That's what I'm probably most excited for after the schedule release. But yeah,
I think I asked Shanahan coming out of the preseason, I said, are you concerned about your run D? And he's like, well, if it was all based on how we've looked against the run in the preseason, I would be. But, you know, we got a good track record here, and we've been good in the past against the run, and blah, 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 blah. Sure enough, that the lack of run D in the preseason, you know, was a precursor or teaser to what we were going to see the rest of the year. They never really stopped the run. Their offense, you know, took Dallas and Pittsburgh and New York Giants, who didn't have Saquon Barkley, and a couple teams fell behind against the Niners, and they just couldn't run. But it wasn't really the Niners run D that was awesome. It was just that their offense under Purdy was scoring 30 points a game, and you know, they were more than a couple games where their offense kind of took the other team's run game away from them by just getting a lead and forcing them to pass in the second half. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see this year. Now there's no Eric Armstead. You could make a really compelling argument that Eric Armstead and Dre Greenlaw, who's also not going to be there early, are two of the 3 most important guys they had against the run all year. And now you don't have those guys to start this year. How are they going to stop the run? How is Malik Collins going to be against the run? Is Leonard Floyd going to play on first and second down? If not, how's Yatir Gross-Matos at setting the edge against the run? How's Devondre Campbell stepping in for for Greenlaw. And then if there's no Hufanga, I mean, you saw the numbers with and without Hufanga. There's a very good chance that it might be Mustafa and Jair Brown at safety. What's that combo look like against the run? So that the run D is going to be a very interesting angle this year. And not only that, Green Bay's got Josh Jacobs. So, that makes them all the better.
The more I think about it, the more I realize that is kind of like the main, like that should be the headline of like the question marks around this team is just the run defense. Because exactly what you just said, you don't have Hufanga to start the season. You don't have Greenlaw. You're coming off of you don't have Eric Armstead, and you're coming off a season where all those guys were there except for Hufanga at the end, and you couldn't stop the run either. So you kind of got worse against the run unless other people got better.
Unless Malik Collins is monster or Devondre Campbell's monster.
It's not really like they got better or worse. It's more just like a question mark of how they're going to respond to it this year with different defensive coordinator and different guys on the defense.
I mean, overall, I think you have to say that the defense with no Greenlaw and a new coordinator and moving on from your best defensive lineman, it puts a lot of pressure on Sorensen as a first-year coordinator. And that's going to be something to watch. The drama there with, you've got a first-year coordinator and you've got another guy who's a former head coach who's been a very successful coordinator, but he doesn't run your scheme. I mean, that's the thing that if you really think about the Niners this year, that right there is really interesting. They brought in Brandon Staley, but they're not using Brandon Staley's scheme. So what if they start slow? Do they switch schemes and go to Brandon Staley's scheme? What happens if they start slow? Does Sorensen get fired and Brandon Staley becomes the DC? And then, but they're not going to change their system in the middle of the year. So are they going to fire Sorensen, who they hired because the players liked him and he was part of their scheme and knows their scheme? And then what if they don't play well? And then if they fire Sorensen and go with Staley, but then they don't let Staley run the scheme that he runs, and because doesn't he run a 3-4? And they're going with a 4-3 wide 9 look up front. So that, to me, the defensive coordinator situation is a major subplot. The run defense is a major subplot. Replacing Dre Greenlaw, who gets that job? Is it Campbell? Is it Graham? Is it Winters? That's a major subplot. Who's their front four defensive linemen on first and second down? Is it Matos? Is it Floyd? Do they limit Floyd to third downs? Is it Collins? Is it Jordan Elliott? There's some real questions there. There's some real questions. And then, does Renardo Green and Malik Mustafa get major roles in the secondary? That's right out of the chute. Are they ready to play and ready to contribute? So there's a lot of questions, man. There really is. And then of course you've got, the future of Debo, the future of Ayuk. If they don't get the contract done, I think they will, but if they don't, the future of Kittle, the future of Juice, the future of Trent Williams. Is this the last go round for a lot of these guys? It's going to be a lot of interesting subplots. This year. I don't know how other teams did other teams' schedules look. Any anecdotes or examples or from other teams' schedules? Sometimes teams have real easy schedules. Sometimes they have very difficult schedules. Anything going on?
Let me see if I can find the rest differential.
We also have a super here from Vincent. What is Vincent saying?
Oh yeah, I pulled the super up. It says, I can't read it. Oh, it says it's interesting that week 1, Hassan Reddick, who tore Purdy's UCL, will be there, and Leonard Floyd, who tore Rodgers' ACL, will also be there.
Leonard Floyd rushed him and he fell funny, and that blew out his Achilles. You mean not the ACL, the Achilles? Or maybe he's I don't know. Is that maybe he's talking about something else?
Achilles.
He meant Achilles.
No, I think he.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about the Jets. Are the Jets better? I'd rather have Bryce Huff than Hassan Reddick. They essentially traded it. Hassan Reddick is now a Jet and Huff's now an Eagle, but it happened in free agency. They basically swapped out defensive ends there. I mean, overall, I think it's, the Niners schedule is interesting in that they've got 5 national TV games. They're on 2 Thursday night football games. They've got, a Monday night game, or 2 Monday night games and a Sunday night game, something like that. So
they have, now that I'm looking at it, they have the 7th worst rest differential since 2002 for any team.
The Niners.
Yeah. According to Brian Burke.
Well, and that rest differential is kind of it's the one.
Oh, wait, no.
angle.
Wait, no. Sorry. That was 2023 49ers. They have the 3rd worst, tied for 3rd worst rest differential of any team since 2002. With, I think they have a net negative of 20. I can't read from this chart. It's kind of, I'll just share this. I'll share the screen. But
who's got the best and worst rest differential on the year this year?
I can't find out the year, but this is of all teams since 2002. This blue line up here is the Niners with a net negative. It looks like 22 or 23. I can't really tell from this chart because it's not super accurate, but that's pretty bad if that's true.
It's the biggest factor. If you really think about it, it's the biggest factor that nobody discusses in football. People talk about home teams. They talk about, trends and quarterbacks and all these different ways to break things down. When you hear people breaking down who's going to win games, they don't really cite the rest differential that often when you consider how important it really is. I mean, when you look at when you go to ESPN.com, they give you a bunch of information. They don't tell you who's got the rest advantage at all. So all I would say is if you're one of those people like myself, who's a degenerate gambler who bets on the NFL, just make sure you print out, the chart or the breakdown of who's got rest advantage and when, so that you make sure that, because you're going to look at a spread, and I am too. We're all going to look at a spread this year and be like, blankety blanks only favored by X over, blankety blank, wow. Or we're going to say it the other way. You kidding me? You're going to get this team and all these points and blah, blah, blah. More, I bet you for every point spread that looks askew, for every point spread where you're like, wow, I can't believe team A is favored by this much against team B, you can almost guarantee that if you cross connect that or cross compare that with the rest advantage table, that it's going to be it's going to be some example of team A is way better than team B, but team B has a 12-day rest advantage, and team B, even though everybody and their brother thinks that team A is better than team B is going to win the game. And it's going to be because of that rest situation. So it's a good thing to keep track of. Warren Sharp puts out the article, and I believe looks at every single team and every single game. But that's the article that I'm looking for tomorrow or later on tonight. Who's got the rest advantage throughout the year? The travel thing is just kind of like, that's just life of being on the West Coast. Do the Niners have back-to-back East Coast games where they may stay somewhere?
They have a Green Bay Buffalo game late in the year.
Okay. So maybe they stay at the Greenbrier in West Virginia or something.
Yeah, that's the only, let's see, do I still have it up? They play back-to-back. That's the only one I'm seeing. Yeah, they only play one back-to-back. Oh, no, they have an early back-to-back, but that they won't stay anywhere because it's Vikings and then it's Rams. So
yeah, so they'll come home.
Yeah.
That's interesting. It's an interesting schedule. I asked the question earlier when we were kind of speculating. I said, would the Niners get the Vikings in London? That would be major advantage Niners. Didn't happen. I said, would the Niners get the Florida teams early in the year? That's a major problem. Like if they had played Miami or Tampa, where they play both of them on the road, if they had played those teams in September, oh, that's a huge problem. September in Miami is not fun. And instead, they got those games late. But then the other question was, are they going to get Green Bay and Buffalo before or after Thanksgiving? And they're getting them, what, right around it? Isn't it one's right before Thanksgiving, one's right after, something like that?
Yeah.
Or are they both after? So, I mean, there'll be cold weather games.
November 24th.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll be snow, but they definitely have some cold weather games. And that should be advantage Green Bay and advantage Buffalo. And I have Buffalo winning that game. I do have the Niners beating Green Bay. But if you had told me that the Niners lose to Green Bay, I mean that's another one too. That could be a very tough stretch. You're going to play Green Bay, then Buffalo, then you get the Bears defense, then you get the Rams, then you get Miami and Detroit. It's not an easy stretch. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a 6-game stretch from week 12 on, something like that. 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, 17. Yeah, from week 12 on. The Niners have had some schedules where, they don't leave the Pacific time zone, like after Thanksgiving, or they don't leave California after Thanksgiving. This year, the end of the year stretch could be a kind of a gauntlet, especially if Green Bay continues to get better as a football team. Green Bay, Buffalo, the Bears, the Rams, the Dolphins, the Lions. That could be tough. That could be very, very tough. So that Bear game, even though I put it down as an L, man, that the Niners better win that game, because otherwise that could be a really ugly stretch, and it could be the kind of stretch that puts them on the road in the playoffs. So I have them 11-6. You've got them at 12-5, and the over/under is 11.5. So there you have it, folks. A little bit of a breakdown of the schedule, and there'll be a lot more that I'm going to read about it tonight, and we'll probably talk. And I'm tomorrow, by the way, on the channel. We're going double stream tomorrow. Tomorrow, I believe at 2 or 2:30 in the afternoon. I forget which one it is. Guy Haberman will be in the house. So Guy and I will chop it up.
Guy at 2 p.m.
2 p.m. tomorrow with Guy Haberman. And then 8:30 tomorrow night, the great Dieter Kurtenbach from KMBR will be in the house.
And we'll probably do like a rest differential video or something like that, talking about, the teams that got the best and worst rest differential and how that might play out, and just the whole buy skip thing. So that will be on the Krug Show tomorrow.
We'll be doing that tomorrow. Good stuff, man. You got a final thought before we bolt for the door? Normally we take calls on a Wednesday night, but Kev's got to do some studying because it's a tough semester for him.
We're already an hour in, so we can't.
We're already an hour in, so we can't take calls. But we will take calls again next week. But you got a final thought, Kev, before we bolt for the door? Thanks to Pig and a Pickle, by the way, for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Underdog Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use the promo code Krug, and they'll match you up to your first $100. Thanks to Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles in Pacific Grove, and all the good people down there, Anthony Catania and the folks. Give them a call at 831-521-5264. And thanks to Marin Autoglass, who's been with us for a long time. MarinAutoglass.com on the web. You got a final thought, Kev, before we call it a night on the Krug Show tonight?
Not much. Just
the Krug Squared Show.
Yeah, I gotta hit the books. Someone said in the comments.
What are we studying?
I mean, I just wrote an entire essay before the show on religious fundamentalism. Religious fundamentalism.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
For what class is that?
It's like a general education religion class. So, yeah. I've been a book today. I've been booked today. I've been grinding today. So
you have been grinding. You've been grinding hard.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to do it for us. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to all of you guys. Have a great night. Check me out tomorrow with Haberman and Kurtenbach. Have a phenomenal night. And Giants get a win. Hey, Giants get the win. They beat the Dodgers. How about that? Have a great night. For Kev, I'm Larry. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of.